like some good conversation got going while I was trying to get on. So anyway, I'm going to be speaking to you this morning about sampling. So obviously there's a whole new builder training webinar or live call that you guys can listen to really start to get into sampling in a lot more detail, either if you haven't already watched it, or it's really, really good to watch as a refresher. You know, I find when I'm watching trainings, I get something new every time I watch, and obviously every person that does the training, you know, watching different people doing the same training is also useful because everybody brings something slightly different to that. So I'm just going to be talking this morning just for 15 minutes on a little bit about how to find people to sample and also how to give a sample. So with this, you know, how to find people to sample, it's something that I often get asked by, you know, new builders, and it's obviously key because all the work that we're doing with completing, for example, the RAC worksheet, and we're deciding, you know, how many classes that we're going to be sort of fitting into our calendars each month, and therefore how many people and how many people we're going to be inviting to those classes. Obviously, these numbers are really fantastic, but you know how we're actually going to make achieve those numbers is by getting people to those classes in the first place, and the way that we're going to do that obviously is via sampling. So is it possible I could have the next slide, Nathan? Thank you. So yeah, so I just thought it'd be useful just to start with, you know, why is sampling so important? And it's obviously it's how we spread the word, and it's how we share these beautiful oils, and how we create excitement with others, but also, you know, really all people need to do, we always hear this, but you know, that the oils really are really, they do really sell themselves, and we are the messengers. And you know, we just need to get these oils into people's hands, and you know, usually once they've smelt the oils, people can tell how beautiful they are and what good quality and how pure and how potent, and normally, you know, that's all that we need to do, and then they want to come and find out more, and generally you know, 90% of people eventually enroll. So I've put here that sampling, it is actually a key money-making activity. So Nathan's been talking to us in, you know, last week's RAC call about trying to focus on key money-making activities, and the reason is obviously that ultimately is what are going to kind of create our enrolment. So it can be kind of a lot of fun, very interesting to spend a lot of time doing other things, you know, like, I don't know, creating posters or listening to lots and lots of YouTube videos and making a Facebook page. And to do some of this is still important. And I'd say, you know, it is part of building our businesses, but, you know, really the majority of the time that we spend needs to be spent on the things that are actually going to make a difference for us and enable us to get those sign-ups. So I've put here that, you know, sampling definitely is a key money-making activity, because after following up, obviously it's what's going to fill our classes. So when we're all first starting, we're starting with sampling within our warm market. So that means it's the people that we know, the people that we see every day. So it's that kind of group of people initially for most of us that we're starting with when we're sharing those oils. And I've just put kind of a few key things here for me that, you know, the ways that I kind of identified some of the people. So, you know, in the very, very early days, you are probably just going about your daily, your day, and kind of hopefully you've got some samples on you, and there's opportunities every day with people that you're chatting to, and whether it's the school playground or you're going to work, or just listening to what people are telling you, and normally there's an opportunity to offer a sample to them, either because they're telling you that they didn't sleep very well last night, or they've got a headache, or you know, their daughter's about to do a big exam or something like that. But you can actually sort of sit down and you know, do a little bit more and actually sort of, I suppose, really start to think about other people that, you know, you might not be seeing every day, but that you still know personally, that are in your warm market. And the contact list memory jogger it's on the doTERRA Rank Advancement Facebook page, and it's really great. We're all encouraged when we first start to create that list of 100 people to actually write down 100 people that you know, the names of 100 people that we know, and within that list to try and identify around 20 people that you think, you know, you'd like to work with or that would be great builders, and to kind of contact them first. But the contact list memory jogger kind of takes that one step further, because it's actually kind of, for those of you that haven't seen it, it's giving you you know, a kind of a template to work through. So it's sort of saying, you know, my hairdresser is, my builder is, you know, 10 school friends are, and it kind of takes you through. And by the end of it, you've got a, you know, the idea behind it is that it's going to help you to, you know, think of even more people that you do know and are in your warm market, but might not have initially sprung to mind. The who can I help today? I put that in because that was definitely my kind of mantra in the beginning, and it still is to a certain extent, you know, because every day generally for us, every day is different. Every day we have different appointments, we're meeting up with different people, we're going to different places. So either, you know, at bedtime or first thing in the morning, it's quite handy. I found it really handy to sort of, you know, mentally say to myself, who am I going to see today? And, you know, most of these people, I know something about them. And, you know, so I might already have had in my head some samples that I want to kind of offer these people. Or even if I don't know them, you know, I might know what job they do, or, you know, there might be something, some little bit of information that will help me provide a sample that I think would help them and that they would like. And I think that's really important as well, to kind of give you some confidence, really, you know, that we are genuinely sharing the oils and helping people, and to really be, you know, having that in the forefront of your mind when you're going about your day and sharing these oils. The seeding and the weaving into conversations, that's kind of the same thing, but it's really, seeding is just dropping little snippets about the oils into conversation, but perhaps you're not actually directly talking about the oils with somebody, but you're just kind of throwing in a little comment like, you know, oh, I really love peppermint oil. It really helps clear my, you know, clear my nose, for example. You might be having a little bit because you've got a stuffy nose, and you might just be throwing that into the conversation. Or you might be talking about, you might just mention that, oh, you know, that you're teaching a class tonight on essential oils. So you're just kind of throwing these little bits in that they all kind of, I suppose you could call them even a touch. You know, we talk about how, you know, potential customers need 4 to 12 touches of the oils. So whether it's an actual physical, you know, touch of the oil, or it could just be us talking about them, or it could be us sending them a video or a website link, etc. The thoughtful gestures and gifts. Now, I've done this. Somebody posted on the RAC page this week as well. I can't remember who it was, but they knew somebody that had done, I think it was a marathon, and they'd decided to pop a deep blue sample of the rub and a lavender oil sample so they could have a lovely bath. They popped this through the door. So it's quite nice to, yeah, you know, there's people that we know that, you know, sometimes we might not necessarily need to have a conversation around them, but we can just kind of, yeah, leave little gifts with people and a note if that's appropriate to do so. Oh, that was you, Claire. Thank you. Yeah, I thought that was a really nice one, really thoughtful. And then the personal message replying back to social media posts. So I do this a lot. I've got, you know, because my personal page has also been my business page, because I'm a nutritionist, and I've run things like raw chocolate workshops in the past as well. So I've got quite a lot of people. But even if you haven't got a lot of people, you know, people are talking about what's going on social media all the time. You know, that they, again, you know, maybe their kids didn't sleep well, or someone's got a cold. And often if I see somebody making these sorts of comments, then I might send them, you know, pop hop on Messenger and just send them a personal message and just offer them, offer them a sample and say that I've got, something that could really help, and would they like to try a free sample? So that can be quite a nice one. And then other ways, once you're starting to run classes, obviously we always encourage that you try and get a class from a class, and then you'll never run out of contacts. So that's a really good one. And it's also important, often you'll get people, that's why the feedback form is very good at the end of a class, because it's obviously capturing, people's interest in the business, but also in hosting a class. So I would always encourage you to follow that up, quite quickly while it's still top of mind for that person, and get a date booked in, and start to organise that class. That's a really good one. And that will also help with your, your RAC targets as well, to get the numbers that you're wanting to get. And, it's a way that we're finding people, kind of indirectly. And it's still nice to try and get samples of oils into these people's hands as well by working with the person that's offering to kind of host the class for you if you're able to. And then I've just popped on the diligent follow-up there, just because, if you put all this work into sharing the oils, I think it is, crucial that we're following up quickly. So, within 2 or 3 days, ideally, and we, to ask, have they had the chance to use them yet? Because often, or sometimes people either haven't had the chance, or they've lost them, or they didn't know what to do with them. And then if they have obviously tried them, then ask them how they got on. And if they got on well, then, invite them to learn more at a class. And if they haven't got on so well, if they haven't noticed a difference, then just check that they're using it in the right way and often enough. And if you need to, you could offer a different sample. So that's sampling within your warm market. And then on the next slide, we've got moving outside your warm market, which this is going to be a whole sort of separate skills training. So I'm not going to spend a long time on this, but this is just a few ideas about what you can do when you start to feel like your warm market is kind of slowing down, and you're finding either you're not managing to find as many people to sample as you were at the beginning, and therefore, you might find that you're starting to fill less classes. And that's when, that's just it's a transition that we all need to make. And it's about kind of moving from our warm market outside of it. So this is when you might start to kind of contact people directly, whether it's by the telephone or email. And it's about sort of, you proactively thinking about people that you might want to contact directly that you don't know. And obviously, so the language that you would use and the way you do that might be slightly different. Part of this is maybe finding kind of areas of interest or target markets that you're particularly interested in. So obviously it's going to be much more enjoyable to you if you're contacting, people or particular types of organisations or whatever it might be, but just sort of focusing on things that you're genuinely interested in. One of the biggest ways of moving outside your warm market, I would say, is via various events, and there's loads of different types of ways that you can do this, but I've just listed a few there. So, things like health fairs, festivals. I've got all my team. It's really lovely. Quite a few people within my team have found a 3-day festival in Kent next month. And we're all kind of grouping together over the 3 days in teams, and we're going to collectively be kind of covering this festival and sharing the oils at doTERRA. So that's a really exciting one. And then I know Bex and Nathan and Michelle, and I'm sure other people as well, are doing kind of some of the biggest trade shows. And talks and workshops. That can be another place where we can kind of contact people and share the oils. Okay, so just a few points on how to give a sample. So once you've kind of established who you're going to give a sample to, so you've had the conversation around, is somebody open to using, natural medicine, or you know, would they like to try a sample for whatever's going on for them, an essential oil sample, and that you've got something that's, you know, that works really great and is very pure and you know, could definitely help, you know, this sort of language. And once again, this is all covered in the sampling training, so I'm not going to spend too long on this, but just a few pointers, a few kind of common things that come up regularly for me, and a few little things that I like to do. So around 10 drops of oil in a sample bottle. Some people do a bit less, some people do a bit more. It's also good to have in the back of your mind, you know, the cost per drop of oil. So, you know, frankincense in the Home Essentials kit is one of the more expensive ones. So, you know, it's about, I think it's about 50 to 70p, I can't remember exactly, per drop. And then some of the blends, you know, are, you know, less than frankincense, but, you know, quite a bit more than things like lemon, lavender and peppermint. So just to have that in mind when you're sampling. I prefer sample files from Ascent Oils or Essential Oil Supplies, just because they're a little bit smaller. So Chloe Smith gave me this tip when I first started, because the doTERRA ones are a little bit bigger, and the 10 drops of oil look a lot more generous, I find, in the slightly smaller sample files. And the roller balls, the empty roller balls, can be very useful for making up samples too, where especially for children, or where it's appropriate to be kind of rolling on a sample. And there we'd be pre-mixing with the fractionated coconut oil, and your upline could share with you, there's a really nice little chart that kind of takes you through how much to dilute, depending on the age of the child, if you're doing that. It's important to cover off safety information and let people know how to use their samples. So I have something that I've typed up on Word, and I will either email it to them, or I will print it out and I will fold it up or roll it up, and I will put it inside an organza bag, which you can get very easily on Amazon. And I would give that to them so that they've got something with their samples. It covers us to make sure that, you know, they know things like not to put the oil in their eyes and to dilute it with oil, you know, if they did get into any problems. But instructions how to use this is also very important, because otherwise you will find that people take the samples home and they don't do anything with them because they've got no idea what they're supposed to be doing with them. So again, it can, you know, people do this in different ways. Some people write a quick note. Yeah, other people might send an email. And I put there, if you're posting them, I've had some sort of times where the little bottles have got broken in transit, so it's a really good idea to somehow protect the little bottles that you're sending in the post. There was a tip that came through a while ago where some people, when we as builders get our oils through from doTERRA, often the bottles get put in little bubble wrap envelopes. I do this now, I save those, and they're quite handy for putting my samples in and sending them out to people. Keeping a list of who you sample, so again, obviously use something like Excel's really good, or it could be a handwritten note, handwritten sort of list of who you're sampling, or but somehow it's really, really important and useful, because you'll need to look back on that if you're resampling, or just to kind of be able to add people to your databases, to invite them to classes and newsletters and things like that. And finally, following up. So again, you know, if you're doing all this work to sample, we need to be following up, because otherwise you'll have less people. You know, if you're following up with everybody, then you're going to maximize the number of people that want to come to a class and learn more as a result of you having sampled. Okay, so that's, I think, is that the last slide, Nathan, or is there one more? I think that's the end. So that's kind of my whistle-stop tour of sampling, how to do it, and how to find people to sample. So I hope it was useful.
Hello, thank you very much, Sarah. That was brilliant. I'm just trying to stop record and stop sharing.